Hey everyone, Realm Jumper 4099 here, and I've been thinking over the last few months a lot about live services and why certain games lose population so quickly. This is just my opinion on it, and I think the main reason is because there is saturation. What do I mean? There's just too many free to play options available. Before Lawbreakers died, Cliffy B talked about this. And what happened to Lawbreakers? There's usually room for 3 top games in a certain genre that can survive. And he is right, at least for live services. Well, up to a point at least. There's only a handful, right, that have a healthy population, over 20,000. And Overwatch launched alongside Lawbreakers. And that was not good because Overwatch took a lot of people away from what they could have bought Lawbreakers. But I won't get into that too much. Let's start with Battle Royale. So what are the major Battle Royales? Call of Duty Warzone, Apex Legends, Fortnite, and PUBG, right? So in this case, these are the top 4 from what I've seen. My experience, I've been gaming for decades. That's what I've noticed. They have a dedicated fan base that constantly plays them. It is really hard for another Battle Royale type game to break this hold, like say High Guard. Then let's look at first-person shooters, PvP multiplayer games. There's Rainbow Six Siege X, which has a steady following, and they just finished their Invitational, which had over 100,000 people viewing it on Twitch. It's incredible, right? Valorant, Overwatch, well, it's Overwatch now, not Overwatch 2, sorry. And they just saw a huge increase, over 70k, I think, over 40k on Steam charts. And that's not counting console players. Team Fortress 2 is doing amazing, over 50k players constantly. And those are the biggest. And then, of course, the Gorilla in the Room, Counter-Strike 2, which is just doing incredible numbers. So in this case, there's room for more than 3. Now, I didn't mention the others because you would get the point. This brings me to the point. There are so many high-quality shooters in live service games already that to break the egg, you really need something unique, or you need to not do live service. As a developer, I mean. And again, these are just my thoughts. I'm not an expert, right? So live services are an expensive upkeep. A lot of studios use Amazon Web Services, and that doesn't come cheap. Which means as a developer, if you plan on breaking even or even making a profit, multiplayer is very risky, at least for live service. The safe bet is single player or some type of co-op or PvE type game. Why? Because PvP needs a healthy population, and if you don't have that, your game will eventually die. So we've seen this before. To name a few, Lawbreakers died, Deceiving died, Hooded Legends died. All unique games that were probably for a different era. Lawbreakers was it was pretty unique. I mean, for an arena shooter, but the age of arena shooters kind of passed, right? That was early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, maybe 2010s, around there. But I think arena shooters kind of died once Unreal wasn't that popular, and Unreal Tournament. And then those games depend on live service and PvP. For that, you need players. No players means no income and no one to play with. Thus, the game dies. I guess you could counter this. A way to counter this is with free to play. But have you ever tried selling something online? If it's not eBay, only really a small percentage of people buy our product, or maybe some other auction house, of course. If it's not a household good like food, very few people will buy the game unless you have incredible marketing or just a fan base for it. Thus, free to play can help your game, but it has to be made with free to play in mind. And what do I mean by that? Like from the get go, you will go free to play. So, for example, Marvel Rivals, they did the smart thing. They allowed all heroes unlocked. You don't have to pay for them, and they're doing all right. And they've had a lot of battle passes, and the only way they could keep releasing those battle passes is if they were making money. So that's one way you could do it. And Deceiving couldn't do it. They were paid to play, and it was cheap, like $20 game. And unfortunately, like for a type of game like that, well, I already covered it in my previous videos, but it's such a niche market that it didn't reach the population that they needed, and it dropped sharply. But I could go into that, but I'm not going to go into that because I already made a video on why Deceiving fell. You can check my channel for that. Alright. Now, let's see here. In my opinion, the market is wide open for a stealth campaign type game. Why? Look at the mod The Black Parade, made on a 1990s modified engine, and it did amazing in its execution and critical praise. So yes, I would want another Thief game, but it should be a proper one. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be Thief. A company could come up with their own game. There's been a couple different games that people have made similar to Thief on Steam. You can search this on YouTube for stealth games. There's a lot of people that make videos about it. But who's doing this? Konami with their Metal Gear Solid remasters. They've been doing that. They've been doing okay. And yeah, as you know, Metal Gear Solid 4 just got announced with the Peace Walker bundle for $50. So that's gonna be good. Now, the Thief 2014 game didn't meet expectations because of the way it was designed. The movement was stiff. You couldn't go anywhere you wanted. You were mostly restricted to the streets, except for certain parts. No rope barrels. It removed things the previous games had, which people love. I did buy the game and enjoyed it. I bought it multiple times actually, but it could have been much more. They should have opened it up, made it more like Thief 1 and 2. I do give the game a solid 8 out of 10, but a lot of people didn't like it. And I could tell, again, the developers ran out of time because the ending was sort of like Mankind Divided, where they left it in a little bit of a cliffhanger. Although Mankind Divided wasn't as big as a cliffhanger, but Thieves 2014 was. It was like a little cliffhanger there. So, yeah, I mean, The Black Parade took 7 years, though, and it was made by veterans, or at least people with incredible knowledge on the engine. So, with Drummond, right? And they added other stuff to it. So yeah, I mean, it could be profitable. I think Thief VR is doing okay, if I'm not mistaken, but we don't have really sales numbers for that. Anyway, just put a check there. A solid stealth campaign game. Doesn't have to be multiplayer. I think people want it. Dishonored 3, Thief 5, Deus Ex. The market wants it. I think it could be successful, and it doesn't have to be a huge multi-million-dollar project. It could be a 10 to 20 hour game. And I've seen this a lot. Like, a lot of AAA houses make their games so big, and that's really not necessary. Because take a game, for example, like Days Gone. It's a solid game, but it could have been shorter. And it's a good game, but I think it could have been shorter and a little bit tighter. And I think there was too much build up to meet a certain character when you play the game. They could have made it a little bit more tighter. Anyways, I'm definitely looking forward to Pragmata from Capcom. I don't know if you played it. It's a solid third-person game set in a lunar base. The characters are interesting, and I look forward to this one. I think this is the type of games we need to push the envelope a little bit. You know, do something different. Don't copy. Because a lot of people want to go live service, but it's shown that live service fail. Concord, Hiker's losing a lot of population. Hiker's a solid game, though, but it got way too much backlash. I don't know why it got so much backlash, but I think it's a solid game. Alright, now, I honestly believe the economy is in a recession. People won't say it, mass media won't say it, but there was over 100,000 layoffs in January 2026. That's, to me, is a recession. In this case, it is better to work with smaller teams on smaller projects. Spending millions of dollars to bet on a live service is not something I would do right now, unless it's something unique like Thick-Ass Thieves. Arc Raiders being the exception. That game is a major hit. With single players, you would contract the developers up to a certain point, and based on how the game does, you can rehire, or the contract ends with less of a risk, because you won't have to pay the overhead once the contract ends, and you keep the ones you need to update the game. Alright, well, again, I'm not an expert, right? I just know some stuff about the industry. Now, these are just my perspectives on what I've seen so far. Also, some developers say when you decide to do a multiplayer game, it's twice as hard as a single player game. However, don't get me wrong, I love multiplayer. I'm very excited for Thick-Ass Thieves. That is a day one buy for me. Now, with the economy we're in, I will run the numbers. If you're going to do a live service, a lot of live services are failing and not meeting expectations. I really wish the industry well, and I hope the economy recovers in 2027. Speaking of 10 to 20 hour games, one way you can extend this is with procedurally generated levels. Diablo 2 has it. Why not FPS or shooter stealth games? A single player or co-op or multiplayer game not necessarily live servers with some randomly generated levels. That would add a ton of replay value, and it doesn't have to be, again, a 40, 50, or 60 hour game. It could be 10 to 20 hours. I'm curious to think what you all think of the industry. There are a lot of games that do what other games already do. Also, y'all, I was thinking, what really does a game need to succeed in today's market, today's industry? Really, and I think what you need to do is you need to be unique. Because you look at a game like High Guard, right? And yeah, it's well made, but it does what a lot of other games do. For example, the building aspect, they got, not necessarily that they got it from Fortnite, but Fortnite already does that. Then the shooter aspect, there's a lot of shooters already. And then the powers are pretty cool, but a lot of games do that already, like a hero shooter like Overwatch or a bunch of MOBAs. So maybe that hurt the game a little bit, that it wasn't as unique. Should they have maybe gone single player? Maybe. With that campaign, that might have been interesting. Maybe like Horizon, or not necessarily as big, but maybe that would have made more money. I don't know. But yeah, I think the key point that I'm trying to make with this video is, if you're going to release a game in today's market, make it unique. There are a lot of copycats, and they're doing the same thing that other games are doing, and folks aren't going to buy that. They're not going to invest time and money in that. If you're not like a major franchise like Marvel or Star Wars, you're not going to sell unless you have something unique. But I really do wish the industry well. And thank you for listening to the video. That's about it, really. That's all I have for now. And I hope you have a good day. Take care.